The 2022 NBA playoffs are right around the corner. The time of year we have all been waiting for, where the best of the best go at it in hopes of winning a championship, is finally approaching, and we as fans are in for quite a treat. Every top team brings their own unique playstyles with unique strengths and weaknesses, and the latter is actually the focus of today's video. Today we'll be running through the realistic contenders in the NBA, and we'll be picking out the one weakness they have that could end up holding them back from achieving their goals. This could be an individual player, an aspect of their style of play, an area of the game that they struggle in, or anything in between, as every team is built differently with different strengths and weaknesses. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made, amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with Mason Plumlee over 5 points, Kevin Durant to record under 7.5 assists, and Terry Rozier to make over 2.5 threes. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. To begin, we'll start with the top team in the Eastern Conference, the Miami Heat, and the thing that could hold them back in the playoffs is that they're good at most but great at none. Of course, I will specify that the Heat have built their success on their top 5 ranked defense, which is obviously a great feat, but I'm focusing more on the offensive side of the ball for this specific thing. The team ranks in the middle of the pack in terms of half-court offensive production because they have a lot of flawed players in big roles. Jimmy Butler's jumper this season has been abysmal, Bam Adebayo doesn't step out to the three-point line at all, Duncan Robinson has been the most inconsistent shooter in the league this year, PJ Tucker basically needs all of the offensive looks he gets spoon-fed to him, and ultimately, they have found themselves way too over-reliant on Tyler Hero off the bench at times to get the offense going. The addition of Kyle Lowry has helped them create good looks for the limited offensive players, but Lowry's no longer the 20-point scorer that he used to be, so the Heat will have to rely on their defense locking up. Next up, we have the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, and the thing that could prove to hold them back this year is that they've only been mediocre defensively. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a former Defensive Player of the Year winner, and Jrue Holiday is known for his lockdown perimeter defense, so you're probably confused about why defense is an area of concern for them. And while those two have been stellar on the end of the floor this year, the team as a unit haven't always clicked, as they rank 14th in defensive efficiency, which is average at best. Brook Lopez missing most of the season was an underrated loss for them because throughout his tenure with the team, he was the anchor in the middle that held everything together on defense as a terrific rim protector. Giannis has always been best served as a defender that can float and provide good help defense where necessary, so another risk then becomes overworking Giannis by making him hold down the middle too. Brook Lopez is back now after his injury, which is a plus for them, but he's also played 12 games this year, and the Bucks have actually been worse with him on the floor in terms of defensive efficiency and net rating, so he isn't providing the same impact that he used to. Next up is the Boston Celtics, and the thing that could end up holding them back in the playoffs is the injury suffered by Robert Williams. The Celtics have been the league's best defense this year, and Williams was at the core of a lot of that success anchoring the middle. He's a big man that plays terrific help defense, he rotates to the right spot every time he needs to, protects the rim, and he rebounds the basketball well. Without him on the court, the Celtics still rank in the range that a top 10 defense would, but their smothering defense was what helped them overshadow some of their inconsistencies offensively. Jason Tatum emerged in a big way in the second half of the year, scoring at the rate that we've come to expect from him after a slow start to the season, but overall the Celtics don't have many consistent shooters, so without Williams, even more pressure will then be on their offense. Next up is the Philadelphia 76ers, and the thing that could prove to hold them back is unfortunately James Harden's decline. Ever since Harden's hamstring injury last year, the hope was that he would gradually return to form over time, but that just has not been the case, and it's pretty clear lately that he does not have the same burst off the dribble that he once had. With the Sixers, he has been tremendous when it comes to his passing and playmaking ability, finding open shooters and creating good looks for those around him, but what the Sixers really need is a reliable secondary scoring threat alongside Joel Embiid, and Harden has not been able to be that consistently. He's shooting just 34% from the field over his last 7 games, and from watching those games, you can tell it's been difficult for him to blow by defenders like he used to, so that then makes it easier to defend his step-back threes, which leads to the inefficiency, and that inefficiency could hurt come playoff time. Next up is the Brooklyn Nets, and the thing that could hold them back come playoff time is their porous defense. The Nets' season has been a wild roller coaster filled with plenty of ups and downs, and they do still have to make it out of the play-in tournament, but we all know how lethal they can be offensively when they're healthy and clicking. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are 2 of the most explosive scorers in the game right now and can both go for 40 points on any given night, but in the playoffs, it becomes a lot more difficult to rely on being able to outscore your opponents if you can't consistently get stops. The Nets are the 20th ranked defense in the league this year, which is in the bottom third, not exactly stout. Their interior defense has been porous throughout. They have a ton of players that specialize in shooting that can tend to be liabilities defensively, and a lot of their frontcourt rotation is either made up of over-the-hill veterans or inexperienced youth. With Ben Simmons' situation still being a complete mystery, a lot of the burden is on Kyrie and KD to light up the scoreboard, so we'll see how it plays out. Now over to the Western Conference powerhouses, the one thing that could hold back the Phoenix Suns in the postseason is their minimal shot creators. I have to admit that when you're playing as well as the Suns are this year, finding a weakness to hone in on becomes incredibly difficult, so I realize this choice is a nitpick for sure. But the Suns play a brand of basketball that is so team-oriented and fun, but Devin Booker and Chris Paul to a lesser extent are the only legitimate players that can go get a bucket for themselves consistently. If one of those two is having an off night, it will be tougher to win games at the highest level, similar to what we saw in the finals last year when Chris Paul struggled to create offense for himself. Next up is the Memphis Grizzlies, and the one thing that could hold them back in the playoffs this year is their over-reliance on transition offense. Memphis is young, they love to run, and they dominate when they get to push the pace. They have the #1 transition offense in the league this year, and with Ja Morant running the break, it's easy to see why. The problem, though, is that the game tends to slow down in the playoffs, and transition opportunities become more minimal, so the fact that the Grizzlies rank in the bottom third of the league in half-court offensive production becomes even more worrisome. Up next is the Golden State Warriors, and the thing that could hold them back come playoff time is obviously Steph Curry's injury. Curry hasn't played since the middle of March because of a foot injury, and the Warriors noticeably play much worse without him on the court. There is optimism that he'll be able to return by the time the playoffs start, but then the next question becomes whether or not Curry will be 100% healthy if he does make it back in time. If the Warriors want to compete for a title, quite simply, they need Steph Curry to be at the top of his game, because even though guys like Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson have been heating up lately, Curry is the driving force of this team's success. And finally, the last team we'll be going over today is the Dallas Mavericks, and the thing that could hold them back in the playoffs is once again their over-reliance on Luka Doncic. It was the same story in Dallas each of the last 2 years, where Luka produced at a historically great rate in the playoffs, only for them to lose in the first round, and even though Kristaps Porzingis' trade has been working in their favor, the construction of the roster right now does still seem to be setting up for a similar fate. Spencer Dinwiddie is a positive when it comes to secondary shot creation, but he's just a 14-point scorer on the year, and expecting that to be what pushes them over the edge seems misguided. The Mavericks are a stronger defensive team this year than they were in the past, but we'll have to see if Luka gets burnt out again from how hard he's going to have to carry the offense. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think could hold these teams back come playoff time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.